This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
For thousands of years, humans observed what is officially known as apparent solar time, or true local time. In other words, they measured time by the position of the sun. It worked fairly well. Then trains came along, and the sun just couldn't keep up. The Brits were the first to establish a standardized time. The Great Western Railway began using London time in 1840. Other railways followed suit. Back in the U.S., the time of day was a local matter, and most cities and towns used some form of local solar time, maintained by a well-known clock, on a church steeple, for example, or in a jeweler's window. Shortly after 1800, at least one individual lobbied for standard time in the U.S., but his suggestions were not acted upon, nor was the initial proposal of one Charles Dowd many decades later. Dowd revised his proposition, and it was finally adopted by U.S. and Canadian railways in 1883. Like it or not, there were advantages to standardized time zones, especially for travel and commerce. According to webexhibits.org, standard time in time zones was established by U.S. law with the Standard Time Act of 1918. Congress adopted standard time zones based on those set up by the railroads and gave the responsibility to make any changes in the time zones to the Interstate Commerce Commission, the only federal transportation regulatory agency at the time. When Congress created the Department of Transportation in 1966, it transferred the responsibility for the time laws to the new department. Since time was standardized and time zones established, boundaries have changed and continue to evolve. Kansas, of course, crosses two time zones, central in most of the state and mountain time in the far western counties.
I'm Scott Thellman, and this is Juniper Hill Farms.
Even though my parents weren't farmers, they bought this beautiful farm north of Lawrence in 1999. In 2010, I started growing vegetables on this land.
Today, Juniper Hill Farms sells produce to wholesalers, grocers, and restaurants, and is focused on growing high-quality food that everyone can afford.
Watch my story and the stories of other young Kansas food producers at kansaslivingmagazine.com/meetafarmer.